Look, when you got like 16 million pages to put up, it gets a little crazy. But tonight, we are going to go live. We are going live on the YouTube channel of the Triple B Experience and Facebook. I have a special guest tonight. He's also a proud sponsor of the Allied Powers Wrestling Federation. But this person has his own business based on all the love that I have in my life with action figures, collectibles, wrestling figures, all that stuff. I'm a big, huge, passionate guy about all that stuff, from Marvel, from Star Wars to WWE. He has his all business, and he sets them up in all these professional wrestling shows all around Western Pennsylvania. But I want to bring on the owner of Jt Toys and Collectibles, Jt Minicucci. And hopefully I didn't murder that name. Minicucci.
You did.
I did. God damn it.
It's all good. It's all good, Bubba. Nobody's perfect the first time. I think there's only been one person that's gotten it right the first time, and that was like a substitute teacher back in elementary school. Like not even my bosses can get it right at my full-time job. But hey, you're in the ballpark. That's all that matters.
Well, I'm hitting a single. So I got it live. So we're going to have questions from a lot of people, hopefully, about your love of your business. But before we get into that, what made you a wrestling fan first and foremost before we get started?
Wow. So yeah, we're going back a long time on that one. So obviously I was born in 93, so it's like I was born in like that kind of new era, basically. I know I'm making you feel real old right now.
Okay.
You know, I was born in like that new era. Like if anyone's watched the Vince McMahon documentary, that's like the Shawn Michaels, the Diesel, the Razor Ramon. So unfortunately, I didn't start watching till like, I want to say 97, 98, and then you really started getting into
when it was hot in the Attitude Era.
Oh yeah, when it started getting hot, I'm a 4 or 5 year old kid, and you got all these angles. I'm like, what the heck is this? What's funny is, it was just me, my dad watching TV the one day. We turned it on, and it's like, hey, this is pretty cool. Let's watch it. But what most people don't know is, a lot of younger fans back in the day, we couldn't tape anything, we couldn't record anything unless we were actually watching the show. So I didn't get to view the Monday Night Wars until the network came out and all these DVDs. So I never knew what WCW was, what ECW was. I never knew any of that existed because I only knew the WWF at the time.
Right.
But I would say my first memory, so we're going back a long way, was WrestleMania 14 is my very first memory that I can honestly remember. The night
Stone, is that the night Stone?
The night Shawn Michaels. Yeah, the night Shawn Michaels dropped the belt to Stone Cold with Mike Tyson as a special enforcer. Very classic match. I know Stone Cold doesn't like it as much, but because Shawn was hurt and everything. But I still think it was a very classic match. But a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of wrestlers, legendary wrestlers, going to Comic-Cons and all that. Definitely the match that I believe stole the show, Hunter Hearst Helmsley for the European Championship. I believe that one stole the show, and I am a huge Owen Hart fan.
Yeah, I God bless him. I was a big fan of his too. I mean, And I saw that live when it went down, and it was not good. And he just had so much talent. And I wish they would have put let me ask you a question. Do you think they should have put a strap, the heavyweight strap on him? Because I think they should have. But that's here or there.
Absolutely. And, and the part that sucks is they wanted to turn him into Sting, basically. They wanted him to come down, unhook, and then he's ready to go, And I think that was their mistake, is because they had a great, as his wife said in Dark Side of the Ring, they had a great rigging company, one of the top companies. And then it's like you look and watch the episode, and that little old clip is holding a 200 something pound man. That was definitely, I get it. The live audience didn't see it, but I still think the show should have been stopped, because even she said the boards were broke. There's blood in the ring. And what sucks is there's people who say, "Oh, that's not real blood." No, that's real blood. That was Owen Hart's real blood.
Yeah,
I've seen
Vince is crazy, man. He don't care. He didn't care.
No, he didn't care, because he would have lost money. But what most people don't realize, and it still bugs me to this day, there are people out there, and you and I probably both know this, that say, "Oh, that's just a trampoline." No, I've seen those boards.
No,
those are some pretty thick boards, and if boards like that broke, there's a problem.
Yes, yeah, and if a board, because when I bought my new ring and stuff, and I went and got wood, I mean, it's like that thick. Now, my wife can tell everybody, like, I have a hard time getting off a couch or a chair. I got to hold on to something anymore, which sucks. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm 53, and that's just the way it goes in life. But I mean, a lot of bumps, and those rings do not give either. So
nope.
I think they should have stopped it, and I can't believe they went on, because it's for this right here, and Vince
exactly.
And Vince could have, they could have rescheduled. I don't know what they could have done. I mean, I don't know, but they probably shouldn't have finished it. And
they should have just stopped the show right there and just moved on and be like, we have to investigate this now. We have to figure out what went down. And I think if they would have done that, they wouldn't have gotten sued. I really don't think they would have been sued.
I mean, because he was doing that Nation of Domination, and he went from there to the Blue Blazer stuff, and it was all like drink your milk and eat your vitamins and doing all that stuff, because he was supposed to wrestle, I believe, the Godfather.
Oh yeah, correct? For the Intercontinental Championship that night.
Yeah, and you can only imagine what how he felt. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like just crazy. So let's get on. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Like he's getting ready to defend his Intercontinental title. Then he knows one of his coworkers is being dragged right beside him on a stretcher, and he's dead.
Yeah, terrible. So let's try to cheer everybody up now.
Let's get back on track here.
So your dad was pretty much was the person that interested you into wrestling, from what you said.
Oh yes, absolutely, 100%.
Okay. Do you remember? Did you go to any matches live with your dad?
We went. Wow, this is really a long time ago. My first show, we actually went. It was my older brother, myself, my mother, and my father when they were still together. We actually went to. I know people say it's Civic Arena. It was actually Mellon Arena is what I remember. Went to our very first show. It was live during the Attitude Era. And I can remember that place was sold out completely. And I'm saying, is this Raw or is it SmackDown? I'm thinking to myself, they're like, no, this is a house show. I'm thinking in my head, like, especially looking back on it now, I was like, this is a house show and it's sold out. I'm like, that's crazy. And it's like,
it was hot,
but it's like a lot of. I honestly remember a lot of those matches. I believe one of them was a 6-man tag featuring the Hardys and Michael Hayes versus the Brood. And I remember after that match, they still covered the Hardys in blood. You know, they were, you know, you think they're only doing it for TV. They were doing it in those live shows back in the day. Definitely, definitely two of my favorites wrestled that night. Kane and X-Pac, when they were the WWF
Okay, I remember
Tag
that.
Team
Yeah.
Champions.
Yep.
They had wrestled, I believe it was Test and the Big Boss Man for the tag team titles that night.
That's when
and like I
Boss
said,
Man
you
was
know, it's
is that when he was in the corporation, the Big
yeah,
Boss
that
Man?
was the corporate ministry, actually. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was the corporate ministry, though, because the main event was Austin and The Undertaker for the title, and they were getting ready for the climax of the finish. Like, Austin's ready, everyone's ready to go, and then you have Big Boss Man, Test, Viscera, Midian come out. It's all chaos. They're ringing the bell. But at the end of the day, Austin stuns The Undertaker and the place goes crazy. It went nuts.
Yeah, that's how it went back then. I mean, that's all he had to do. And yeah, those house shows in the arena, I've been to a couple of them back in the day. I mean, it was hot. I mean, it was wrestling was so hot, like Monday nights, the Monday Night War, because I'm old enough to remember it. So it was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked at a bar. I had it on. It was more popular than Monday Night Football at one time. People didn't want to watch football unless it was the Steelers on Monday night. But any other Monday night game, they didn't want to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to watch wrestling. So I was like, holy, okay, I'll put it on TV. You know, so anyway, you're in school and stuff like that, and you're probably going with your buddies. Now, you and your buddies, did you guys go to shows back in the day?
No, unfortunately, when my parents split up, we moved to, a few people know this little town, Clearfield, Pennsylvania. So from 2001 to 2011, when I graduated high school, I lived in Clearfield. And unfortunately, you know, that's back when we didn't have GPS. You know, we had to go on the internet and print out directions, you know, to get from Clearfield to State College. Now, if I was to drive there, I could do it in an hour and a half, you know.
Right.
But it's like, you know, it was hard to get tickets, you know, especially when Monday Night Raw came in or SmackDown, you know, because a lot of those places still, you know, they were selling out as quick, and it was very, very hard to get tickets, you know. So it's like I was kind of upset that I could never go to a Raw or SmackDown or even a pay-per-view if they came close to Clearfield. But at the end of the day, I was like, I'll just wait till I'm older. I'll watch it on TV, you know. Right. And it's like there for the longest time in the Ruthless Aggression era, it's like, not saying it was boring, but it's kind of like, I'm glad I didn't go to SmackDown. I can sit here on my couch and watch it. I can record it. I can skip through all the commercials. But it's like, and then I moved back down to Pittsburgh with my old man. What had happened is things just fell out up north. So I moved back down. I was looking for a job. Around 2014, Royal Rumble was in Pittsburgh. So I ended up.
Who won that?
Batista when he came back.
I think I was there. I think I was at that show.
I was there too. I was on the camera side, but I was up a little bit. I was just out of view. But when you say, I laugh all the time when, you know, they say we hijacked the show. Oh, yes, that show was hijacked. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Because I tell people to this day, Bubba, when that Big Show Brock Lesnar match came on and it was just a beatdown, I was like, that's it. They got him. They're going to hijack the rest of the show, you know. See, there was some good matches. Obviously, you started off hot with Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan at the time. That was the hottest match of the night. Besides, you know, the Rumble was not that great. It honestly wasn't.
Right.
And then you had Brock Lesnar come out and beat the Big Show. That's all he did. Wasn't impressed with it. You know, I'm just like, they're trying to get Brock over. And then you had the John Cena Randy Orton match. Wasn't the greatest match in the world between those two. I've seen a lot better matches. It was still a good match. And then the Wyatts came out, and then that kicked off the feud with Bray Wyatt and John Cena, which at the time they probably could have did a lot more, but it is what it is. You did what you did at the time. But the Rumble, there were so many spoilers. Like, this is the thing I don't like. Like I damn for sure don't like Dave Meltzer, spoiling everything, saying this is a 5-star match. You be like Oprah. He's like Oprah Winfrey. You get a 5-star match. You get a 5-star match. You get a 5-star match. You get a 5.5-star match.
Right.
The internet's not perfect, but when it comes to surprises, we don't want to know what's going on. We don't want to know who's at the hotel where the wrestlers are staying at.
Right.
And I was excited he came back, but when Sheamus came back, I was like, I was kind of expecting it that because at the time he was at the World of Wheels car show signing autographs, and he was there with Chris Jericho that day. I'm like, so maybe Jericho's coming back, and then he ended up not coming back. But I remember reading an article, someone saw, I saw Kevin Nash at the hotel. I'm like, oh, well, thanks for ruining the surprise.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately, it's hard to stay off the internet these days because everybody just, and then you're like someone like me, I'm just scrolling through. Oh, here's a surprise. Here's a surprise. I'm like, quit ruining all the surprises for us.
Yeah, I don't.
And that's
what
makes.
I don't put out any winners or losers. I don't do that because people haven't watched it yet. You know what I mean? Like pay-per-views, like AEW's tonight. You know what I mean? I'm just going to watch it. I'm not going to like give every match out. That's just ridiculous. But people do that.
Yeah, and it's like, maybe there's people that, they want to watch the DVD, maybe they don't have the internet, but it's like, they'll have their friends. Oh, hey, no, don't spoil it for me. I want to watch it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, times change, and that's the thing we've come to in our world. And sometimes we have to accept change, unfortunately.
Well, change is hard, JT. And I know when I try to watch TV shows and stuff, and I don't want the spoilers like back in the day when Walking Dead was so popular, and it was getting 17 million. I didn't want to know. And I did mess up because I was talking about the show at work one time, and a guy at work didn't see it yet. And I felt so bad. So that's why I don't talk about nothing until I always ask people, did you watch it? Because if you watched it, then we can talk about it. If you didn't talk about it or you didn't watch it, we can't talk about it. And I do that with everything, so
right.
And wrestling, they just like to put it out there. And then I think everybody likes to get their views up or whatever. And then they want to put the winner in. Oh, here's the winner. Here's the loser. And I'm like, oh my God. I didn't like the last WWE pay-per-view. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it until later. I just didn't scroll anything. I didn't do, and if I seen something with like WWE on my Facebook, I hurry up and went by it. You know what I mean? Because I was watching IWC. I wanted to watch IWC Saturday night. So yeah, I feel what you're getting at. So okay, let me ask you another question. Instead of the big guys, did you when did you go to your first independent show? Do you remember going to any independents back in the day?
2019 IWC. What was it? It was Cage Fury 2019 because I was going to meet Sean Spears from AEW, aka Ty Dillinger, from when he got released from WWE. And one of the most interesting nights and definitely an experience I'll never forget, posting pictures on it while I was at the show, just taking pictures of the cage, I was like, okay, this is a pretty nice setup. I don't know a lot of these guys, but this is a very nice setup. I'd never been to an independent wrestling show before. And go figure, Clearfield was running, IWC was running in Clearfield. No clue. Had no idea that Chuck Roberts was doing that at the time because I missed out on a lot of guys. Johnny Gargano, Bobby Fish, starting out, Shane Taylor, starting out and everything.
Yeah.
I just never knew about it because, you didn't see too much on the internet at the time, and up there in the mountains.
You didn't see any posters or anything? Posters
no,
and stuff
never really saw one poster.
Okay. Oh
and
my
it's
God.
like a lot of the posters for other stuff, it'd be county fair time, and these utility poles, there's posters all over them. Never saw one IWC poster on them ever. Wow. Never even heard about it.
Yeah, this is coming from me. I know back in the day I used to put posters on telephone poles, but in Indiana I got called from the borough. It was $25 fine for every telephone pole that I did. So I quit doing that. But I mean, wow, that's crazy that, you lived in Clearfield, because I have some of my relatives live in Grampian and Bell's Landing and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And Clearfield's a big area, nice area.
Yeah,
And
very nice area.
their fairs are phenomenal. I mean, they get big talent in their fairs. And it surprises me that you didn't see, being a wrestling fan, you didn't see any flyers or anything like that. That's surprising.
No, that was just the weird part. And it's right there in the expo building. And I'm always walking through there at fair time, never saw one thing. And it was just so weird. So let's go. So I'm getting off track here for myself. So 2019, I go to see Shawn Spears. It was like $10. I was like, this is actually still pretty cool. At the time, I actually had a replica Ring of Honor title that I had over my shoulder to that. And he's like, you got that crappy belt, I was like, well, maybe you should have brought a WWE belt with you. And he gave me that. And I was like, yeah, I'm just messing with you. He's like, he's rubbing my head. I'm like, dude, you're so much taller in person. But posting on Instagram while I was there, my mother actually commented on it. And she said, oh, yeah, you have a cousin that wrestles down there. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, Spencer Slade. I'm like, so we come back after an intermission is when I saw the comment. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I said, I just saw him wrestle. I was like, well, this would have been nice to know. I would have went and said hi. So it wasn't, I went back a few more times, but I never saw him out like at intermission. At the time, I obviously wasn't selling anything, so I couldn't go in there early. So it wasn't until Reloaded the following year, that in 2020, that I had other family members who had shown up to the shows. And that's when I was finally introduced to Spencer. And they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, this is your cousin. They're like, oh, this is your cousin JT. He'd come up to me like we'd known each other for 20-something years, And the unfortunate part is, at the time, his family was living out in Harrisburg. So I'm living in Clearfield, but it's like they're 4 hours away from family reunions and everything. So it's like they never really came out. But it's like, man, this could have been the one guy I could have been talking to 24/7 about professional wrestling, because he's been wanting to do that since he was 12. And it's like, he tells me all the time, it's like when he was telling people in school he's going to be one of the top professional wrestlers one of the day, they're like, yeah, you're a scrawny little thing. You're deaf. You're never going to be able to come to it. And look where he is now. He's signed with the NWA. Billy Corgan said he's the future of the NWA, and he might be, which, well, coming from me, he is, no doubt.
Well, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not going to disagree with you, because when Spencer's in any company, it just makes the company a little bit more. I mean, that last match with him and Bill. I mean, if it was my ending right there, I couldn't end it any better. Those two are the best in and out of the ring, just utmost class. And Spencer's dad is a great guy too, because every time I get a chance to talk to him, you know what I mean? I talked to him at an IWC show. He's just such a nice guy. And Spencer's, man, he's doing it. So
last time I checked, he was 265, I want to say, and 3% body fat.
Wow.
I mean, he's in the gym probably 6 days a week. He's in the ring, always practicing at least 6-7 days a week. And if people go back, his one interview, I forget where it was. I'm not 100% sure. He was asked, why do you wear the headgear? He said, the first time I took a bump, my hearing aid fell out.
Oh.
So then that's when he went with the Josh Alexander style headgear. Right. And he's running with it. You got somebody like Josh. He actually went one-on-one with Josh Alexander for I want to say it was the TNA X Division title that Josh was holding at the time. And he took Josh to the limit. He took him to the limit. And he got a lot of praise from Josh Alexander after that. And that's saying something.
Oh yeah, he's booked. Spencer's booked every weekend. Every weekend. I'm just so happy and honored that I can get him or Bill when I can get them. You know, that's I can't get them all the time, but when I can get them and they're open, believe me, I will try my damnedest to book them both. They are, you know, and a rematch could be on the horizon. I don't know. You just never know with those two. Those two are the pinnacle of independent wrestlers in my eyes, both of them.
And it's terrible that unfortunately Bill's never been signed.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what though? He gives back to the business like no other.
Oh yes, absolutely.
That seminar he had recently for me, he was, you know, just so professional, and he's all about professionalism. And you're right, but you know what though? He wins championships in every company he goes, so that's still good. He's booked everywhere too.
He was Matt Cardona before Matt Cardona got released.
Yeah. I always tell him that. I always say that. But anyway, okay, so you went to IWC. So what made you get in to the toys and collectibles? Now, you must have did this all your life. You probably collected stuff all your life. What did you collect growing up?
Well, it was definitely nothing but action figures. I had to have every single action figure that came out. Anytime we'd go to Walmart, Target, you know, I saw an action figure, you know, at the time, sometimes I got it, sometimes I didn't. What's weird is though, I know a lot of people, you know, I might be hitting some memories with this. At Century 3 Mall, my mother used to work there. She was actually a store manager at KB Toys when it was KAYBEE Toys.
Oh,
before
wow.
they rebranded and changed that. I'm going way back on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is she worked there as a manager, and I said to my dad, I actually said this not too long ago. I said, could you imagine how many figures I would have to this day? I would have had probably every WCW set. I would have probably had every WWF set when they started. Probably would have had every ECW set. But unfortunately, at the time,
Wow.
I didn't think I was, you know, my dad didn't think I was going to be into this as much as I was, because I would have had one of, if not more of the holy grails, the Lightning Kid, where who was it? Kurt Hennig had actually shaved off Sean Walton's eyebrows. So that apparently is the holy grail of action figures, because I have never seen one under $700. I have not seen one yet. And what's weird is I was actually looking for one online when he came to IWC, because I believe he did 216 the night before in AIW, and then he came down to IWC. You know, he was definitely, you know, not even with the DX crop chop, you know, when he did the Bronco Buster on a lot of people, you know, that was definitely one of the things I wanted to do. But we'll get into that later. But it's like, we'll get into that later. But
I can only imagine.
Definitely. Now that I'm older, I've done a lot of high spots videos. I've gotten 8x10s, posters from them. So it's like, I'm not fully away from collecting figures, but it's like I started collecting autos a lot more. I believe my very first auto that I ever got was of Virgil. And I know a lot of people know, God rest his soul.
He probably charged you double, huh?
I believe he only charged us $50, and you know that's not bad. But it was him. It was a photo of him, Andre, and DiBiase.
Gotcha.
So that I think it was 3 or 4 years later, maybe more than that. Definitely more than that. I met DiBiase at Steel City Con, because that's where we had met Virgil when it was like 4 or 5 guests and you had to buy a special ticket. But Virgil, he was nobody was there, so we went up to him, and he had actually put me in a headlock. And of course, we can't find the photo because I would have had him sign that. But when I met DiBiase years later, he signed it as well, and he told me specifically, now when time travel is invented, you go back in time and you get Andre to sign this. And that's just a dang shame that I'll never get Andre to sign that. But, God rest both of their souls, But then it just kept escalating and escalating. So basically every Steel City Con, especially now, they try to get wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten from Gail Kim to Candice Michelle to Lillian Garcia, and pretty much almost all of them I've gotten. Well, I got a funny one here. I was down here on a weekend visitation visit. So I said, can I bring a friend because he wants to go to Steel City Con? My dad's like, yeah, sure, no problem. We had actually gone to meet Gail Kim when she was still in TNA, and she was doing like that 6-person tag with, I can't remember that tag team, America's Most Wanted.
Okay.
I think it was either before or after the pay-per-view where they had that 6-person tag, and it was for the tag team titles. And I believe it was Styles and Daniels who had held the titles at that time. She had signed something, and it was like 2JT, the death sentence, I believe that finishing move was. But my friend Jordan and I, we were just so scared to go near her and everything, because we're young teenagers, man. We're seeing a beautiful woman. It's like, yeah, it's kind of nervous. But now I'll go up to anybody. I've met some real good ones. Godfather, DiBiase. Next show in December, I'm going to meet Paul White, the Big Show, for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, gonna try and meet Tori Wilson too. I've been waiting years to meet her. There's a lot of good guests that they have, really good guests. But then, I started to realize I'm running out of room to put stuff. Especially now that I get action figures autographed, there's definitely room for error. So COVID hit, and then we were all screwed. I was like, I'll figure something out after COVID. So COVID's over, and I'm like, what can I do? So I had been looking at what other people were doing. So I had actually gotten advice from Cody Barbe, who's a regular at IWC. He's always in the front row. He's always cheering for Team Storm or RC Dupree or Diamond Nystrom. I'd gotten advice from him, and he said, why don't grab up everything that's in your personal collection, put it on this side, and then anything you want to sell on this side. Like, do you really need these autos? Like, you didn't go, I got them on high spots in a grab bag. Do I really need them? Do I really need them? No, not really. Okay, so we'll put that here. We'll put other figures here. And then I'd gotten more advice from Anthony D'Alfonso and Michael Ricard, who actually are ATD Promotions. They bring in usually all the wrestlers to do signings and everything. So I said, okay, maybe I don't need high spots because they're pretty expensive, obviously. So I started getting autographs to them. I do mail-ins all the time. I try to go to every show that they're at. I just got Juventud Guerrera to autograph some stuff for me. And then now we're doing the Super Toys event in November out in Ohio. And they said that's usually a pretty big show. They have the Powers of Pain and Candice Michelle, who I've met. But I never got a picture with her, so now I got to go out and get a picture with her.
Right.
But it's like, they definitely, all three of them, they've given me a lot of advice. Put this here, like figures, autos, cards. But at the time, it was a mess. For years, it was all over the table. But at the time, it was working. People were still flocking to the tables. So I was like, okay, maybe I can go for this for a while, and we'll see how that goes. So I actually, this is before RWA. I had actually booked at Waynesburg Toy Show when Dave P was still running it. The only problem is it's an hour south of Pittsburgh. It's
Yeah.
off the main highway behind a state penitentiary, and it's just like it's out there. So the problem was, so I did my first toy show didn't do too bad. I made a couple hundred in profit, but I was like, no, I need to change of scenery right now. So I took some time off. I was actually just doing like Instagram and Facebook. I was doing live videos there. I was selling stuff here and there. I was like, I got to make a change. So my first official wrestling show that I did was with Feel Bad at RWA. He gave me my first shot.
Okay.
And I'm just like, this is a local crowd. I got to figure out what they want, how to set my prices without losing money.
Right.
So I had
that's
gone out. Yeah, I had gone out and bought a 6-foot table. That is what I started with, and I didn't have a sign. I didn't have anything. I just went out. I went in the corner where the concessions are, and I was like, all right, let's just pray. And people were coming to my table left and right. They're like, all right, I want this figure, this auto. All right, you can have that for 60. Here's a couple free trading cards,
Right.
And it's just it hit like wildfire. Boom, 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 boom. That's where I met Doc Michael at, very, very nice guy. His son Bodie actually came up to me and bought a couple figures off me. So that was pretty cool. And then we exchanged information, and we've been good friends ever since, Tony Kincaid, and then what's weird is that night I actually got a bunch of wrestlers that came up and bought a couple autos and trading cards. And they're like, do you have this? Do you have that? I'm like, let me get back to you on that. So where I first started buying from inventory was Ringside Collectibles. Obviously, they had sales all the time, and I was making a little bit of profit. I was like, okay, you're going out getting brand new stuff that everybody's going to want, but you're going to sell it at $50 when they can technically go on Ringside and get it for like $40. Right. So it's like, we got to make a change. So I was taking notes from D&E Collectibles, like, okay, they get their stuff from other people and then they sell it and make a profit. Mm-hmm. So what I had done is I reached out to a lot of people, especially on Facebook Marketplace, that were doing a lot of these sellings. I started going to a lot of toy shows more and more, like Toy Hio out in Ohio, all these other ones. And that's where I started really getting inventory. And then I really started to make money. And I'm like, okay, so what can I do next? So then I was recommended to Marshall Gambino at 2PW. Him and Papa Judo, even though unfortunately 2PW's on a hiatus right now.
This is a hard business, and I read that.
It really isn't. It really is, and it stinks. But there's always a silver lining. That's more room for more shows. But unfortunately, yeah, it sucks. But Marshall's a great guy. He let me come in, set up a lot of places I've gone. They've wanted me to bring my own table. Every time I go up there, they take care of me. They have a table, they have this and they have that. So my first night at 2PW, I believe it was in, I want to say October. So we got 2 months till Christmas. I'm thinking of my strategy. What can we do here to help these people out? Okay, we'll give Christmas deals like crazy. Buy 2 figures, get a third one free, buy 5 figures, get a 6th one free. I had people, I literally, that first night at 2PW, I lost half of my figure inventory. And I had about a good 50, 60 figures. And I was like, this is great. We're hitting it off like crazy. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I was dating a girl named Rebecca. She was a regular fan at Rise in Uniontown. Okay. So I'm like, how am I gonna I'm like, first of all, I don't know who to message. And like a lot of wrestlers, I'm nervous to ask. I am always 100% nervous to ask.
Why?
But
why?
It's just, it's like, well, hey, we don't have room for this, maybe next month, or maybe their price is too high. I'm just like, and you also think, am I going to do good here? Am I going to do good? So I had contacted Christy and I said, this is what I want to do. You know, what's your prices? She had actually given me a folder, like the price and what they're going to do. They put me on the floating screen during intermission. You know,
Mhm.
they had put me on part of their flyer, which then eventually, once I got to know everybody at 2PW, that's what they started doing as well. So even though there's no shows, they're still putting me on the flyer. And I appreciate Marshall, Papa Judo, and MED for doing that still. And that they're great people up there. So I had did my first Rise show, and I had actually had a 10-foot table that they provided for me. So I had stuff everywhere. And I had signed turnbuckle pads. I had 8x10s. I'm like, I'm still missing something, but what am I missing? So I had contacted Cody because he works for a company, like they make like the Stage AE letters that you see down on the north side. His company made those. He had actually made a couple signs. I was like, do you think you can do one for me? So I haven't been able to use it yet, but it's about a good 6-foot sign that has our logo, has our brand on it, all our social media, you know, and you know, it's just unfortunate. It's a huge sign. I can't even get it in my car because I have a Kia Soul. But yeah, you know, he didn't have to do that, but he did, you know, and I paid for it, obviously. But
Right.
I'm like, that's something that's definitely going to get us recognized. So we're doing shows, you know. Now we're finally. Last April, we were able to get on board with IWC, you know, and we did great out there, our very first show, and we did pretty good last show. The thing that was really the downfall for me, where I knew at that point I really needed to make a change. Toy Palooza this past summer, I did what I always do. I set stuff on the table, I organize it, and it looks half decent. I had 2 customers that day. That's it.
Oh shit.
And that was definitely a hard hit, but it was also a reality check. Like, okay, you need something to stick you out from everyone else, you know, need to clean it up a little bit. So at the time, I had like 20 boxes I was carrying into each show. So I was like, how can I change that? Let's get totes. That started to lighten the load a little bit and just go boom, boom, boom. I said, what else can I do to bring attention? So I had gone out recently and bought some shelves, you know, the shelves that I was putting together like you put in a standard garage. So I
Right.
was like, okay, these are too much of a pain in the butt to put together and take apart. So now it's like, you know, to make the money, you got to invest the money. So
Yeah.
now I actually have 2 rollable shelves, which have made it a lot easier. I can get more stuff on the table and all the Funkos and figures basically on those racks. They're 4-tier shelves. So I was like, okay, you know, now I think officially we made a change. I said, what's one more thing I can do? How can I really attract attention? I have a standout, and I know a lot of people have seen it at the show. I have a uh, standout of Seth Rollins for WWE 2K18, the video game.
Gotcha.
It was one of those ones that was on display at Walmart, and I asked the associate. I was like, because it was at the Walmart I used to work at in North for Sales. I said, hey, can I have that? They're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I was
That's
like, okay,
funny.
what do I owe you? They're like,
I,
nothing, just take it.
I have a
I was
funny
like, okay.
story. I have a funny story about a WWE cutout when I was living in Florida because I had a store. I had a brick and mortar store of action figures and comic books and all that stuff. It didn't last long, but we had the big show and Floyd Mayweather for WrestleMania was a cardboard cutout.
Oh,
Well,
geez.
it was in a lobby somewhere. I took the goddamn thing and took it to the store, but it didn't make it back from Florida to Pennsylvania. But I did have it in my store. But because I did a brick and mortar briefly, so I know based on how I did it with action figures and all my collecting stuff too. It's very very hard, and you're just going to shows and toy expos. Now you don't have a brick and mortar store.
No, I think we're gonna save that when it's time for me to retire from my full-time job, because it's not difficult, but it's like, scheduling can come up. I can get called in on my layoff days and everything. So it's like we're doing one thing at a time. We haven't been too profitable, but the money's there. And it's like some I'm gonna eventually start putting away to, eventually have my own store. That is definitely one of my all-time goals, is to eventually have my own store.
Yeah, I had the showcase, and I had the WWE figures, and it was right on the beach. And
that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
But it didn't. Delusions of grandeur. We called it Starcade Sports. That was Starcade with the NWA. But anyway, do you sell stuff online? You have an online store?
We actually have the Whatnot app. There's a it is I have a profile on there. We haven't started there yet. Maybe after the holidays we'll do a show. But the unfortunate part is, I have no help, and their policy is you have to ship stuff out after somebody bought it within 2 days.
Oh, okay.
Or like you pay a fee or something like that. Eventually we're going to get there when I have time. Like maybe next year when I take a week off for vacation, we might actually do a show. Eventually we're going to try it.
Let me ask you, JT, could you do stuff on Facebook? Like, you do stuff on Facebook, all the stuff you have when you're not at shows? Can you do it that way too, or no? I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, I can. It's just, it's timing with everybody able to get on and see, So for now, it's like I'm posting stuff, but a lot of my inventory, I really don't post because I would rather not ship to anybody. Just because I work for the post office, I see the behind the scenes, and I don't want people's stuff to get torn apart.
Gotcha.
But people have been asking, and they've been waiting, and they've now finally started to come in. Thea Hale first edition figures.
How many of those you got? You'd probably sell those out.
I have pre-orders. I've only gotten 2 that come in. There are 9 more due to come in.
You'll sell
them. I was lucky enough to able to get them through a wholesaler. So yeah, I've already gotten offers for people that are looking for them and are watching this. They are only $30, and you get it right then and there. And then I haven't gotten her second edition figure, which is the Chase U one. And for anybody watching, those would be $35. But this is definitely, I'm not trying to get sidetracked or anything.
No. I enjoyed it. Go ahead.
I actually pulled out my holy grail of figures, because I get a lot of questions. What's your favorite? What's your biggest?
You beat me to the punch.
A signed Elite Terry Funk 2 years before he died.
Holy shit!
High spent COA and everything.
Wow. Not selling. Don't sell that. Do not sell that. Don't sell that.
I've gotten plenty of offers, and I said, I don't care what anybody offers me. I'm never selling it in my life.
Don't sell it, because I was on a show one time with the Funkster, and I tell you what, I was listening to him and Shane Douglas talk, and I felt like I was a little kid just soaking it up like a sponge. And I've always liked Terry Funk, you know what I mean? But and you know what he told? He goes, "You look like Jody Hamilton," because I was doing a Russian destroyer mask, and I'll never forget that. And I'm just sitting there, him and Shane are just talking, and I'm just sitting there, like the 3 of us, and my other buddy was there. It was 4 of us, and we were just. I didn't say nothing. I told my buddy, "Don't say nothing, shut up, and just listen." And we did. And that experience, I'll always have. You know what I mean? Don't ever sell that. Don't.
I have no intentions.
Yeah, because some people are like, "Oh, JT, I'll give you this." And how about don't? Because I have upstairs in my room, I have the first appearance of Wolverine Hulk 181, and I'm not selling that. And they could I'm never doing that. That's my most prized possession. I'll never sell that.
Take that 6 feet with you.
Well, I might give it to, well, when I go to the greener pastures, my comic book collection might help out my nephews and my step daughters. So
Oh yeah, definitely.
I could, yeah. But now, what is your second favorite piece ever? Because
wow, I've never been asked that. My second favorite.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad I do. No, I do
there we
interview
go.
good.
I wasn't sure if it was here, but at the last show, I got a certain Godwin to autograph this for me.
Nice. Super guy. Awesome. Oh, he was so, like, my hat's off to Potter. You know what I mean? Because he was at the Comic-Con, the Eddie P. Comic-Con.
Yeah, that he did earlier that day.
Yeah, and I wanted to go to that so bad because I am a big, huge comic book connoisseur and action figure guy. I collect Marvel. I don't do the WWE stuff anymore, but I do have about 6 totes in my storage that I haven't sold yet for my lovely Florida store. And I do have stuff that I do keep. And the guys that I've wrestled, I'll never sell because I keep, like Jake and Nikolai and, you know, tagged up with Hacksaw and stuff like that. I keep that stuff. But other stuff, I would definitely sell.
you would definitely make some money off that, Bubba. Definitely.
Oh, I have some older ones. I just don't have the time to do it like you do. I just don't. I've sold a couple to some friends of mine and at some half decent prices. And I'm not looking to get rich, but also I'm not looking to give the farm away either. I'm not going to give action figures away for $5. Like people probably try to, oh, hey, JT, I got $5. What can I get for $5? How about this action figure? No, you can't do that.
What's funny is at your last show, there was a group of boys that had come up to me and basically said that same question. What do you have for $5? Nothing. I said, unfortunately, I don't have anything for $5. No. You know, and then I had a little boy, I was tearing stuff down. He was like, if I help you, can I have an action figure for free? Like, no, that's not how the world works, unfortunately. No. You know, I'm not gonna, you know, be a complete I'm not gonna be a complete douche about it, but it's like, unfortunately, that's not how the world works, you know.
No, and they're and it's they should never ask. Just saying. You know, when I was raised, you never asked. You worked for what you did, and if you got paid, that was different. You never asked, "Hey, I'll do this if I get something for." That's just not. I would have told him, "Hey, kid, sorry about your luck, but hey, I'm in the business of selling action figures, not giving them away." You know, Johnstown's a hard. It's a very stressed economy down in J-Town.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, people always ask me, you know, don't you have a business partner? Absolutely not. You know, I've had people offer to help, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what we do. This is the time I need to be there. All right, how much are you paying me? I'm like, I'm not paying you anything.
Yeah. They always think of this.
That's always the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'm like, and I'm not perfect. I always said like that when I was younger. Like my dad's like, hey, go mow the lawn. All right, how much are you paying me? You know, but it's like you get older and you realize, you know,
did he pay you?
You know, but it's like, you know, oh no, he never paid me. Of course he didn't.
my dad never did either. Jay, get out there and cut the grass.
but it's like, you know, they're like, all right, can I have a couple free figures? I'm like, yeah, sure. All right, I want all these chases. Well, no, that ain't gonna happen either.
Jesus Christ, man.
I can't just
don't do that either. No,
I can't give anybody an AEW chase figure. No. You know, especially ones, you know, that are out of stock now. So it's like, you know, right. But I mean, well, I get through it, and that's all that matters. You know, I don't have to go like take a bunch of bathroom breaks or anything. You know, if somebody's there, they watch my table. You know, if not, I'll take a sheet and I'll cover it up, and then when I get back, it is what it is. You know,
right.
Unfortunately, I've never had anyone steal from my table.
Oh man, God, if that happens, that's just totally ridiculous. And I'll put it out there. If that ever happens, and you're ever at my show, and that ever happens, I'll throw them out. And that should never. Hopefully, that never ever happens. But you just never know, but that should never ever happen. You know,
Well,
it
that's
should
why
never
a lot of my times, you see my eyes going left, right, up and down. It's like, it'll happen in a second, and
Well,
you know,
I can. Yes, it could. It could be that quick. But if you do a show, you're coming the 26th. If you need to take a break, I'll stand there and make sure no one fucking believe me. If I'm out there, I'd be more than happy. You know what I mean? Hey, Bob, I have to use the restroom for a second. Can you watch this? Yes, I would definitely do that for you. And then I'd try to sell some stuff for you. But I would never, you know what I mean? If you have to use the restroom, please, if I'm around, please get me or one of my staff, and we'll stand there and you can go to the restroom. I did not know that that's a big predicament that you have at shows, because we're going to get into some problems now of doing this at shows. Is that one of the problems?
No, not really. The only one problem was when I had done IWC in April, is when they had the Dudley Boys and ATD had brought in Teddy Long and Farouk. The Dudley Boys weren't out there while I was setting up, and then by the time they came out, everybody was already in line because I was to get some stuff signed by the Dudleys. So luckily, I had Drew Ryan, who's the whiz can in IWC. Him and his family were able to stand there and watch my stuff. But then the thing that sucked is I'm all the way back here, like what is that called? The ice arena in the Rob's favorite ice.
Yes.
I'm all the way in the back, and then the ring's over here. So it's like I can't leave and go watch a match. So it's like I'm streaming the IWC network right in front of me and watching it right there. But it's like, I still have it, but I did very well that day. I honestly, people ask me, what was your biggest profit ever? Even after I'd gotten.
Don't ever tell them. That's the key.
Okay.
Don't ever tell them. It's none of their business what you make.
But what I told them is, I said my biggest profit is IWC.
Mm-hmm.
I said however much I made that day, I can't tell you, because then you're gonna try and be like, oh well, you sold this and that for this. Okay, can you sell the same thing for this? No.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing that, well, we'll save it for later, because now we're gonna get into some problems. So where do you want to start on the problems part?
What was your biggest problem? I mean, yeah, we got a lot of positive stuff when you have your own business and you go to these shows. What was your most negative ever putting up a show on the independent circuit in Western Pennsylvania?
Definitely the biggest negative. So I'll just say it. I was warned many times. Many times. It's a little company out in Williamsport, PA. Well, they're not around anymore. And you and I,
until tax season.
Well, you and I, we talked before we went on the air. I don't remember how I found him, but I had seen, I believe it might have been on Instagram. It was for Night of Legends. It had featured, at the time, it was the Rock and Roll Express, Too Cold Scorpio, Buff Bagwell, Gangrel, Eric Bischoff. I still don't know how we got Eric Bischoff, because his meet and greet wasn't cheap. And then there was somebody else, I believe. I can't remember. Maybe there wasn't. Oh no, what had happened is the Rock and Roll Express had to cancel because Ricky Morton is with the NWA, so Ricky and Robert both had to cancel, which sucked. Right. So he had then gotten the Faces of Fear, Mange and the Barbarian, aka Mange Haku, as we all know him. But definitely 5-star wrestling with Joe Rogers, Night of Legends, was the biggest downfall in our history. And I mean biggest. I was warned multiple times, but at the end of the day, you have to go figure out for yourself. You can't trust everybody's word, but I still look back on it and say, you know what? You were warned, and you still went. So the biggest problem with his show was at the time.
The biggest problem with the show is he's into business. That's the biggest problem.
Well, with that show, at least
I can say it. I can say it, and I would. Yeah, I'm very
Yeah,
opinionated.
you can go ahead and say it because you've known him longer than me.
No, I don't know him. I think he's a piece of shit. I don't know him. I never met him, but he prank called my phone one time and said he was Hulk Hogan. And yeah, I ever see him, I'd slap the fucking taste out of his mouth. And I think he's just terrible, and he's a shit stain on independent wrestling. I can say all that because this is my show, but he's a piece of shit.
Well, yeah. Well, definitely one who warned me definitely was, I think the first one that warned me was Phil Archer, because I guess he had like a benefit show for one of the wrestlers. And I guess he hadn't paid Jason Gorey, and that was basically it with Jason Gorey, is he had enough. And then the biggest surprise I ever heard was how he screwed over Balls Mahoney.
Yeah, that's
legendary. And then Balls Mahoney, he streamed it on YouTube or something. Yeah. I vaguely remember seeing it somewhere.
I seen it.
And Potter actually sent me the link to the shoot interview. He's like, oh, yeah, I was going to his house. I was going to kill him. You know, and he called the cops. He's being a whiny little bitch and everything. I'm just like, okay, you know. But the show itself, I went all out for. I had every single figure. You know, I had trading cards. I had a whole priority mailbox of trading cards that I ended up selling to a cousin of mine. But it's like I had everything, and I forget who I was next to. One of them was Tyler Vox, I believe his name is, and then one maybe Sam Adams or something like that. But the thing that gave me the worst vibe ever in an independent wrestling show is I go in, there's no stage, there's no ring, no chairs were set up. Wow. I said, am I early? So I had never met Joe at this point. We'd only talked through social media.
Oh God.
He comes out of nowhere. He's like, oh, JT, and he gives me a hug. Like, no. I'm like, no, don't fucking touch me. I literally said, please do not fucking touch me. And he did. So at least for me, I was able to have room to just go through and set up my table. Like they had the announcer's table and all the other vendor tables. So I just went straight through. I was there maybe an hour and a half before the ring finally showed up. Wow. And he's like, all hands on deck. And he's like, JT, do you want to help? I'm like,
he's asking you to fucking put up a ring?
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, I've never put up a ring. I don't know what to do. That's all you. And I was like, I'm already paying you a fee. You want me to do that for free? You better take something off my fee if I do that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because what I had done up until that point is when I started, actually, I was booking month by month. So like for a full year, I was booked with RWA. Then what I had done at 2PW is I booked 3 shows. So I said, okay, this guy's out in Williamsport. It's a 4-hour drive, but let's see what he can do with us. So he booked me for Night of Legends and 3 other shows, and the agreement was $250. I said, okay, I didn't make anything at Night of Legends, but I got 3 more shows to come back to.
Okay.
Not a thing.
Oh my God.
So I was like, okay, I got 3 more shows to come back and make profit. He had then changed the venue and went to, it almost looked, if you looked at pictures on the inside, it almost looks like an abandoned warehouse almost. Just like, I'll give him credit. The setup was half decent. It was a half decent setup for a show, but he had gotten a contract with a local cable company. I was like, well, they're going to keep going until the checks bounce. And that's exactly what happened. He had to shut his company down because the checks bounced. And I'm laughing so hard the people that I know that I would ask, definitely, if anybody's wondering what the setup is Pagasa and Anthony Young. And I know Anthony Young and Pagasa are coming to your show on the 26th, both very phenomenal talent on the independents. But it's like, even people warned them to, it's like, be careful.
Right.
And they went out, and there's some of their shows on their YouTube channel. They had phenomenal matches. They really did. They both are trained very, very well. I know A1 was trained by Palace and LaRusso, and I think Pagasa was trained by Money Shot. Now she's at Rise being trained by Kay. So other than Joe Rogers, all the other promoters I've worked with, phenomenal.
Yeah,
I can honestly say
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. No, they've turned the bottom of the barrel over, and that's the excess guck that's right there.
Right. Well, tax season comes about April, and then he'll put it back out there. And I don't know how he got all that. And you can't. I cannot do that. I am upfront. Like the other day, I fucked up on the APWF about some booking. I took ownership for that and put it on my Facebook page. A lot of promoters probably wouldn't do that. I don't know if they would or they wouldn't, but I like to look myself in a mirror and it's like, look, if I fuck up, I hold myself accountable, which I do very, very severely. And my staff will tell you that. But yeah, I would never. Yeah, I don't even know. I never met him ever, but there's nothing ever good. There's nothing good about him, and he should never, ever, 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 ever run professional wrestling shows ever again.
Well, I think one of the other first to warn me was Elijah Dean, and I was like, well, I know you're just giving me advice and everything, and you don't want me to go out and do it, but it's like, ultimately at the end of the day, I got to do it for me.
Right.
I said, well, he's talent. So I was like, okay, I'm a vendor. It's probably going to be different. Nope, never do that again. Nope, I'm just not. It was not worth the 4-hour drive, because what sucked is I left during the start of the main event because I had a 4-hour drive.
Right.
Yeah, it sucked, and it was a straight 4-hour drive because I was so pissed at the time too. So
I bet
with not making much money, I had given him
the living shit out of him. I'd have picked him up by the throat. And Larry's right. Larry's right. And Larry is the host of Pro Wrestling Extreme Talk, which will be he'll be going live at 6:30 tonight on Pro Wrestling Extreme Talk. So if you guys want to hear some stuff with the one of the best wrestling podcasts around, jump on at 6:30. Larry and the boys will be live. So yeah, Joe Rogers. That's probably your worst one, right? Is that your worst one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He is the dog shit worst one. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. If he ever calls me back, I'd be like, buddy, I'll come up to Williamsport and you could say hello to my little friend or something. I don't know. He just, I don't know how he got my phone number. Well, he probably did because it's on social media. And he was pretending he was Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, I hung up on him, So.
Well, what ultimately ended up to things splitting up is there was some things that kind of threw a red flag, but it was almost a yellow flag. Like, we know everybody doesn't like Jim Miller. We all think Jim Miller is the biggest and probably the second most piece of garbage next to him. He was driving through McKeesport, and if people don't know, PWX is on the top of the hill, basically in an abandoned church. And he said, I'd love to go take a shit in that ring right now. I'm like, okay, everybody has their opinion. I already met Jim Miller once, and I'll never meet him again because I had actually looked into training at the time, even to be a manager.
Okay.
But I walked in and talked with Aaron, whoever, and then I met Jim Miller. I'm looking at this place. Yeah. I'm like, I'm looking at this place and I'm like, I feel like I'm getting hepatitis just looking at this. And I get it. Nobody's perfect. But I looked in the ring and it's like they took the tarp off the ring. I'm like, this does not look safe at all.
Yeah.
And I enjoy how he says he gets 300 a night. There's no way he gets 300 a night. There's absolutely no way. And it sucks to say that because I like people who get big attendances, but you're running the same night as IWC 99% of the time. It ain't going to happen.
No, I will never run against IWC the same night. That's just political. That's just career suicide. I am not that fucking stupid. I will not do that. Nothing against everybody else. Like tonight, we're doing this interview. There's 3 shows going on in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's just too much, and that's why I like to run on Sundays. I mean, I'm running this 2 weeks from now on Saturday because I can't compete with football. That's why.
Right.
I mean, and I'm just spacing out my shows like quarterly because it is very stressful. It's hard to get talent. And I could go on and on and on and on and on, you know. But yeah, PWX 30 years, but I feel you.
Well, you know, talking to former talent and bookers and everything, it's just even a coworker of mine works in the same section, Anthony Villada. He refed for Joe back in the day or Jim, and he basically wanted to keep everybody around because he realized that was the thing that was keeping him alive, was the talent he had at the time. You know, he had a K, he had a Dean Radford, he had AJ Alexander, you know, you had TJ Sensation. Yeah,
yep.
you had Quinn Magnum who was doing all the booking, you know. You had
Quinn's a hell of a booker. Quinn's a hell of a booker.
Yes, I agree 100%. You had, you know, Dennis Gregory, Super Hentai, you know. It's just they can't stay around forever. And it's like you had AJ, he finally came back from Japan and he's only gotten better. Right. He has only gotten better.
Yeah.
Doing all that training with Tajiri and everything. He said he lost every match, but you know, it's the experience he get.
Yeah. And I would like to book him sooner than later. But things just didn't happen in this show. But I did talk to him about having him come to the show, coming to the APWF, but it just didn't pan out. You know, budget wise, nothing against his. He's great. He's a great talent. I just couldn't get him this time.
Oh, he's a great guy. Great guy.
Okay, so before we get out of here, I got a couple questions to ask you.
Oh boy, here we go.
And one of them won't be about Jim Miller, but unless Jim Miller wants water, and I know he wanted me to sell nachos when we were doing APWF stuff in a meeting. He didn't want us to do any type of stuff. He wanted me to sell nachos, and I said no way. That's a true story. I had a business meeting with him, and we weren't doing it because we did. I borrowed the license. We borrowed the license. Me and Chris Lash borrowed the license off of him because it was NWA East presents APWF because we couldn't get the license. Now, I don't know if everybody knows this, though, but in the state of Pennsylvania, being a professional wrestling promoter, you cannot rent your license out. Yes. When I got my license a couple before COVID, I was going to help VOW. I was just going to give them my promoter's license, and I couldn't do it because it had to be APWF presents VOW.
Okay.
And that's how it is. That's how everybody gets away with it. That's, you know, if you don't do that, because it has to be, I can't rent my license out because everything has to be APWF, which I would love to rent it out and say, you know, APWF Entertainment or something. But no, you're not allowed to do that. But some people do it. Not me. I can't do that. But anyway, a little bit of tidbit. I got a couple questions I want to ask you, JT. Who is your all-time favorite wrestler?
Wow, that's definitely a tough one, especially with Spencer in that conversation now. Wow.
Okay, let's go AEW, WWE one, and then I'll go independents and any other any other company that's not AEW or WWE. So you'll have two. How's that?
AEW wise, I know it's going to be a lot of controversy, especially the way he's been in the last couple of years. I got to go Kenny Omega, the cleaner.
Okay. WWE.
WWE, wow, all time. Still got to go with X-Pac. Definitely all time favorite.
Wow. Okay. That is wow. No one's ever said that. That is a first.
He was when I was thinking about wrestling, you know, now you look back on it, he was almost a mid-carder. He was never really a main event guy, but he was a heck of a mid-card guy. And him and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 15 stole the show with that European title match.
Well, he was the guy that made every smaller guy had the dream to wrestle. I had an interview with Quackenbush, and Quackenbush actually said that. So, yes. And me, I'm a bigger guy. I don't, I always try to get bigger guys booked, but now I don't think of it like that. Not everybody has to be jacked as long as they're good wrestlers, you know what I mean? And they're trained, not at a crazy place that we talked about before. Okay, and last but not least, a wrestler who is not signed and other major companies, not in AEW or WWE.
Well, definitely. Well, we'll go with top 5 with that. How about that? You like that?
Okay.
We'll do top 5.
Go ahead.
All right, so we'll do 5-1. So definitely, because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Definitely number 5 has to be Zach Nystrom. Definitely Zach Nystrom.
Okay.
Oh, let's see. 4.
Okay.
Because I know I'm going to get hit in the face no matter what.
It's your opinion. I mean, hey.
Yeah, I know. I just don't like. I don't like doing these a lot of time. But 4 will definitely go. Yeah, I got to really think about this. 4 will go Elijah Dean. Definitely.
Okay.
One of the all-time greats. And I hope he gets signed very, very soon.
He's got a match with Dennis Gregory, which has never ever happened before. Or I mean, sorry, Gorgeous. Yeah, sorry. I think Dennis
close enough.
Talked about it before. No, well, they're two different things. But Gorgeous and him never ever met in a ring before. So,
and that's weird, but that's first time for everything. Yeah, 3 will go Super Hentai. Definitely catching up on a lot of his matches.
Okay.
2 is Dennis Gregory, because what a lot of people don't know is he used to work for the post office, and he was doing the reserves at that point. He actually worked in the same office as my old man when my old man was carrying for the post office.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
So that's how I got to know Dennis eventually, and then obviously Spencer is always going to be top on my list, unsigned. Okay. Even when he gets signed one day, he's always going to be the top of my list.
Okay. You already said your most prized collection was your Terry Funk. That was one of my questions, so you beat me to the punch.
Yeah.
Your favorite movie of all time?
Wow, favorite movie of all time.
Just one. You can only have one.
Yeah, I know.
If you're putting it in your DVD player or Blu-ray.
Back to the Future Part 3.
Okay. Where do you see yourself, JT, in 5 years?
5 years. Wow. That's a really good question. I'm even from my younger nieces and nephews, I still get asked that, because they're looking forward to their future. Obviously, like to have my own house. I stay with my old man for now. I would definitely love this to be bigger and broader than it's ever been. I would love to definitely travel more out, more than Ohio. There's the Squared Circle Expo out in Indianapolis. Definitely one of our goals in 5 years. Definitely on the top of our list.
Okay. What about like New York Con or San Diego Con or something like that? Maybe just going to San Diego Con and just going out there. That's one of my bucket lists, to go to con out there. But for you to go out and maybe, get some collectible stuff before it comes to be hot, exclusives, picking up some exclusives at con.
Yeah, the Sting one that they had, and they had a Brody Lee one. Those are definitely, and I'd love to go out there, even if they don't have them out yet, to see like the previews because of what WWE makes. Because you see it online, Ringside Collectibles, you see the previews and everything, but to see them in person would be even better. Mm-hmm. Definitely would be even better.
Okay. The last question, brother. One word to describe JT.
It's definitely a hard one. I would have to say phenomenal.
Okay.
I'm a phenomenal guy to be around with. You know, I'm a great guy. You know, for all the single ladies out there. You know, I'm definitely. I got to
All right.
advertise myself somehow, Bubba. I got to advertise
Hey,
myself.
JT, I can be Chuck Woolery. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies. Hey, we could do we could do a dating game. I'm all about. I could be a host. You know, I used to hook up all my buddies back in the day. So, hey, I appreciate you coming on. I know we talked about it, and I'm glad you got a hold of me, and I'm glad, you know, you told me a lot of stuff of the history of your you know, of your toys and action figure collecting store, which is not brick and mortar. It's you going to places, and that's hard to do too. Your history about your wrestling stuff, on how you went to matches and stuff like that. And so before you get out of here, tell the people where you're going to be, how to get a hold of you, everything, all that. If they're looking for action figures, what you're selling, the time is yours, brother.
So we are definitely, of course, we're going to be at APWF on the 26th. You know, Nightmare at the Castle. We definitely have some ideas. You know, I'm waiting on some inventory to come. It's going to be Halloween themed. For those who don't know, who definitely don't know me, I unfortunately suffer from this thing called epilepsy. I know we didn't get to talk a lot about that, and I usually don't talk about that a lot.
Oh,
So
wow.
next month is Epilepsy Awareness Month. JT has a few ideas up his sleeve to do some raffles, and 100% is going to the Epilepsy Awareness Foundation. For those who have been asking, like I said, I'm not keeping 1% of it, not even as a fee. It's getting 100% donated. I actually have one on my wrist right now. You will be getting your very own wristband. It says hope, faith, and courage. Even if you don't buy anything, you want to donate $1, I'll give you a wristband. You know, I'll give you 3 wristbands, you know, or whatever you want, but always make a donation no matter what. So then we return to IWC in November. I can at winner take all in the Marxist Court time. Next month, I have the official date on my calendar. I don't have it.
November 2nd. November 2nd.
November 2nd. Yes. Yes. We are also looking, another place I forgot to talk about, Revenge / now Big League Pro. We definitely do good up there. They are having their Wednesday night wars, not nightmare wars, that is featuring former WWE superstar and current Rise Grand Champion Dijak. So we are definitely looking to go up there. And for those who don't know, I'm just going to tell you right now, he is facing the NWA. I believe he's the Midwestern champion, Pretty Boy Smooth. I don't think the title's on the line. It might be. Who knows? It might be. So definitely we might be thinking of an appearance up there. I do know I have to talk to John after the show to see if he's doing any more. But we will definitely try and make our return to Erie as soon as possible. And then whenever Bubba wants to start running shows, whenever he does it again, we're definitely coming back up to Johnstown. Even if I only make
Johnstown in Indiana, brother. Indiana, definitely.
Even if I only make $50, $50, you know, you put on the shows, I show up. I'm not only there to sell, I'm there to watch great wrestling. And definitely, just like you said in your one post the one time, you can't afford to go to these WWE shows. Go to independent shows.
Yeah.
Go spend $20-$30, sit in general admission, and you still get this almost the same quality wrestling. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be on national TV. There might only be 200 people there, but it's worth it. For those who have never been to a show, trust me, I've been addicted for the last 5 years now. Well, and I do not regret. I don't regret ever going to an indie show.
Well, I appreciate it. And you're going to have the same location that you had at the last show, because I think that's just easy accessibility right there. And I'll give you tables.
Definitely had a little bit of a crowd over there. So yeah, that works fine with me.
You let me know how many tables you need, brother. You got it.
Just one.
Okay. I'll give you 2 if you need it, but
all right.
You just let me know. But, JT, I appreciate you coming on, and anything that you have that you want to promote, please let me know so I can promote it on all my stuff for you, man. I mean, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. You're just trying to put the word out there and just trying to get it out there. And you're going to all these shows, and you're probably pretty much maybe the only one that has a moving, grooving action figure collectible store that's a mover. So not too many people have that, and you can only get bigger and better. And anybody that's out there that want to get a hold of JT, if they're looking for figures, they're looking for action figures, they're looking for collectibles, they're looking for Miss Hale right there. JT is always on social media. Get a hold of him and he can hook you up. Come to the shows, all the shows, the 26th, November 2nd. If you live up in Erie, check them out. And JT, thank you so much for coming on. Anytime you need to promote something, let me know. Anytime you can come on anytime, brother. And promote. That or talk a little bit of wrestling.
Well, definitely, if you're ever interested, we can both watch a WWE pay-per-view together, and we'll give our opinions.
Oh
yeah, I've always wanted to do something like that.
Okay. I've never done a wrestling watch along. I have done a Steeler watch along, and man, that's hard. But yeah, I'll let you know because and also too, if you ever want to come on, I know you might be busy, but if you ever would like to come on the Mega Cast panel and give your WWE pay-per-view picks and you're available, I'll throw you out a link and you can come on anytime and try to beat Kal-El. He's undefeated. He's 14 years old, man. He just lives wrestling, man. So I just shake him up picking crazy stuff. And I'm a Nia Jax fan, so what can I say?
Oh, I am too. Speaking of that, I got something for you since you're a Nia Jax fan. If I'm able to find it, I know it's here somewhere.
I love Nia Jax. I think she's great.
Always, you put stuff everywhere and then you can't find it.
Oh, I know. I'm the same way. Oh, wow. That's fucking awesome. Don't sell that.
And that's actually her very first figure. That's her first in line figure.
Wow. I think she's great. I mean, she's not going to hold the title much longer, but I think she's great. And I hate when people fat shame her, and there's a lot of people out there that do.
Yeah, I didn't realize for the longest time her weight was announced and people would shame her over that. I'm like, I think that's a phenomenal idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because that just shows how dominant she is.
And she's quicker now. She's doing some moves against Bailey and she's showing her quickness. But yeah, I'll definitely, when we do a pay-per-view pick, I'll definitely send you a link if you're not at a show. And if you want to come on,
absolutely.
You're more than welcome. So I appreciate you, JT, for coming on.
Yep.
And
because you know what time it is?
It's AEW time.
No, it's going to be Tiffy time real soon.
Oh. Yeah, you're going to have to get an action. You got an action figure of her? You got an action figure of her?
We have some coming in here very shortly. I don't think they're going to make it in time for APWF. But if you're at IWC and you're looking for that Christmas gift for those little girls or little boys, you might want to pounce on it while you can.
Well, if anybody's listening and you're looking for, like I said, if you're looking for WWE action figures, contact me. I'll get you the, JT, and then you guys can do whatever. So, but JT, I appreciate you coming on. So everybody, this was JT, the owner of JT Toys and Collectibles, the only business that goes to independent wrestling shows in all of the whole half of this state. So, and that's hard to do, but we appreciate it. And he's also a proud sponsor of the Allied Powers Wrestling Federation. And we do appreciate that.
And he's also a very, very good looking single guy for all those ladies out there.
Single guy. If I know, I don't know anybody. I'm old man, but if I know somebody, I'll throw them your way.
Well, thanks for having us, Bubba. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, JT. So everybody, thank you so much. You were listening to the Triple B Experience. You guys want action figures? Get a hold of JT. Thank you guys, and have a great night.